Welcome to JIS Studio 58A live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone who's joining us online. We really do appreciate it. And as you watch, remember to just do us that favor we always ask. Share this video with a friend or 2 or 500 so we can have a lively discussion. I think this is one that you'll definitely want to tune in and stay tuned into. Today, we're talking about an illness that maybe doesn't have the kind of attention that the public really should be giving it, but we're going to peel back the layers and explore it a little bit today with our guest. Now, we've seen and heard the stories before. An elderly relative has gone missing after wandering off from their home or somewhere outside. And if they are found, they show signs of confusion, memory loss, maybe even an inability to perform basic tasks. Now, while old age does play a role in this kind of behavior, it's also very possible that the elderly person, the elderly loved one, is suffering from dementia or perhaps even Alzheimer's disease. Here today to help us gain a better understanding of both conditions is Dr. Ishtar Govia. I made a mistake on that. She just told me this morning how to pronounce her name properly, and I think I made a mistake. But she's going to clear that up soon enough. She's head of local support organization Alzheimer's Jamaica. Welcome, Dr. Govia.
Thank you for having me, Vaughn.
All right. Now, let's establish what we're talking about here. What are dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and how are they different from just the absent-mindedness and so on that comes with regular old age?
It's a great question to start us off. So,
Right.
Dementia is what we call the umbrella term. So if you think of an umbrella, the umbrella covers the person, right?
Right.
But the umbrella is supported by these spikes.
Right, of course, yes.
And so the spikes under that umbrella are the different types of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. Vascular dementia is a type of dementia. Dementia with Lewy bodies is a type of dementia. So when we think about dementia, what we're thinking about is diseases of the brain that are often progressive. And in the case of Alzheimer's and many other types of dementia, they're irreversible.
Irreversible?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, now, is this something that we should all expect to encounter as we get older, or are there risk factors or so on that predispose any person in particular to developing these conditions?
Right. So dementia is not a normal part of aging. It's important that we say that and that we repeat it. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. So we need to think about, as you said, what we can do to prevent and to reduce our risk, really, of having dementia. And some of the things that we do to reduce our risk include things that you do to reduce your risk of other non-communicable diseases. Like heart disease, etc. So the physical activity, eating right, getting enough sleep. Sleep is so important because sleep is how the brain clears out the rubbish from the day.
Let me interrupt you 1 second. It seems we're having a little difficulty with the audio. They've addressed that. Wonderful.
Okay.
All right. So continue.
So reducing your risk. So I was saying sleep is one of the key ways that you can reduce your risk.
Sleep?
Yes.
Is that simple? Just go to sleep and get a good night's rest?
It's about getting good rest because often people don't get good rest and so their brain doesn't have enough time, enough space to do that cleaning. Your sleep is like your brain doing laundry. So it clears things out.
Interesting way of looking at things.
Yeah, it clears things out. So sleep, adequate exercise, eating well, and really reducing your risk for other non-communicable diseases. So things like strokes and heart-related disease, reducing your risk for diabetes, or if you are experiencing any of these types of conditions, to make sure that you are adhering to your medication regime, which means that you're taking your medications as the doctor prescribes it, and you're checking in.
But it begs the question for me, if I'm over 65, I might not be as flexible, and it sounds like moving up and down, keeping yourself active, that kind of thing, because that's one of the the activities we should all participate in if we want to maintain, good health. And if I'm over 65, I might think, boy, I'm too old, I'm too tired, my body feels that way. My body, you know what I mean? I feel like I can't move up and down.
60 is in your 40.
I mean, I stress 65 because it seems, based on what I've read, it seems like 65 is that turning point where you become more susceptible to either, dementia or Alzheimer's as you age and so on.
Yes, because dementia is associated, particularly Alzheimer's disease, is associated with age, in that your risk increases as you get older. So in terms of your concern about whether or not people over 65 would be more likely to get a diagnosis of dementia because they're not exercising, you'd have to figure out, well, what other factors are involved. And everybody can move. Well, I shouldn't say that, because there are some people who literally physically cannot move, but if you can move, the basic types of movement, walking, getting enough fresh air, all of those things are important too.
All right. Now, before we even go into warning signs, symptoms, that kind of thing, the question whenever I hear these illnesses is like, how likely am I to catch it? How likely am my relatives, my friends, my grandparents, that kind of thing? How prevalent is this in Jamaica? Is this something that maybe, compared to, for example, diabetes and hypertension, things like that, can you rank them in terms of how often you see this occurring in Jamaica?
Yeah, another good question. So, important to keep in mind, you cannot catch dementia. Okay, so it's like other what we call non-communicable diseases. So these are diseases of what we call not just lifestyle, because there in some cases there's a genetic factor as well in terms of somebody's likelihood to have a particular type of illness more than somebody else's. But with dementia, and we want to also watch, because one of the things that we do at Alzheimer's Jamaica is we help people with language, because language is very important. So we don't talk about suffering with dementia. We say persons living with dementia and their carers. So it's very important to think about that. Let's get back to the question about whether you are more likely, how likely you are to have dementia, and how many people in Jamaica actually have dementia. Yes. Right. So in terms of the number of people in Jamaica, from the studies that Alzheimer's Disease International has done, and from a local study as well, what we know.
Let me see if I can just bug. It seems that we're getting the consistent question that there's challenges with the audio. So it seems like we can just ask our technical people, Twyla, Andre, to just have a look at that so we can get good before we proceed even further.
Okay.
So, on those of you watching online, just let us know if the audio improves. They're working on it behind the scenes, and if there's anything we missed before, we'll just go back over it. Let us know if you heard, if there's anything you missed, anything you don't want us to talk about. Again, we're just going to keep going, and then we'll fix it as we go. Right now,
just repeat your question.
Repeat your question, and we'll fix it.
We're
working on it, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate it. I just want to take the time to check in and see. There are some persons who are checking in, some persons who strangely have the same last name as our guest.
Really?
So it seems like we have some people watching. Magda Govia.
That's my sister.
Wonderful. She says, hi from Trini. Lots of love and thank you for sharing your knowledge. All right.
You're welcome, Mags.
Avon Peralto Nichols, thank you for letting us know about the audio situation. We're working on it. We're trying our best to fix it. And Rochelle A, wonderful. Thank you for your comment again. You just got a hi from. It seems like your sister is really big.
She's happy with a big up, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right. So talk to me again. Prevalence in Jamaica. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'll give you broad Caribbean numbers first. So and I'll start from the past. So in 2010, we had over 330,000 persons in the region, the Caribbean region.
330,000 in the region.
In the region. Okay, and in 2030, what we're expecting is that will be doubling to 640,000 people.
600 by 2030?
By 2030,
okay.
2030.
Okay.
And then by 2050, we're expecting that number goes up to over 1 million in the Caribbean region.
Jump.
It is a dramatic jump. And the Caribbean is is one of the regions that's most likely to have the highest jump in numbers because of our increased life expectancy, among other factors. So let's move from that level of the Caribbean region and take it down to Jamaica now. So Alzheimer's Disease International, as I was mentioning earlier, which is the umbrella organization to which Alzheimer's Jamaica belongs, Alzheimer's Disease International estimated that the prevalence of dementia in the Caribbean is 6.5%. What does that mean?
Exactly.
That means what does that mean? That means that at least 1 in every 15 persons who are over the age of 60 has dementia.
Okay.
Yeah, is living with dementia. 1 in every 15 persons over the age of 60.
That seems kind of high, you know what I mean?
It is pretty high. And then there is a local study done by the Mona Aging and Wellness Center in around a few years ago, and they had very similar estimates. 1 in every 16 persons over the age of 60. Now, what we need to do is we need to actually have even more high quality studies that look at prevalence in Jamaica and in specific Caribbean countries. And the institute that I work at, the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, is actually going to be embarking on some more of these high quality studies, particularly in partnership with the Strengthening Responses to Dementia in Developing Countries, the STRIDE project, which we're partners on.
All right. So, warning signs. What are some of the things that suggest that you might be developing for persons who may have elderly relatives and persons who might be concerned about behaviors that their relatives are demonstrating? What are some of the warning signs they should look out for and try to?
So some of the warning signs include, particularly with Alzheimer's disease, include memory loss. With vascular dementia, memory loss is one of the symptoms to progress much later on, to manifest much later on. Then other symptoms include difficulty performing tasks that you're used to performing, that you regularly perform. So, for example, signing a check. How you may regularly perform signing a check, you may end up forgetting how to write your name, or you may even write your name as something different from what it is. Your mood may change. There may be changes in terms of your mood. Your behavior. Are we having audio problems?
No, well, Magda just told us we have great volume now. That makes me very happy. I'm
good.
I'm very glad that you can hear, because this is a very important discussion. I really don't want any person to lose out on it.
Okay, good.
So everybody's checking in, saying the sound is much better now.
Fabulous.
Tell her, Andre,
thank you,
Twyla, everybody behind the scenes. Thank you very much for fixing that
Andre,
problem.
Twyla, and Vanessa, all behind the scenes. Thank you. Big ups to you.
All right, great. So I want to go back to the warning signs again.
Yes, let's continue with the warning signs. So misplacing things, problems keeping track of things, including things like dates, including things like tasks that you need to be doing, especially trouble with your images and with spatial relationships. And what does that mean?
Yeah,
that means that if you're driving, for example, and you see a red light, but you see traffic on the road, you tend to automatically slow down in a quote-unquote normal case.
Yeah, exactly.
But with somebody who is experiencing initial symptoms of dementia, they get very disoriented, and their sense of space is different from yours or mine. And they may decide to drive the car further because they don't perceive space in between. They perceive space. They're seeing space where space doesn't exist. And another example is, for example, if somebody living with dementia or having signs of it is stepping. If the floor is dark, they may think that that's actually a hole. So they may feel much more frightened to move forward. If there are patterns on the floor or patterns in the room, that can make them very confused. And if there's a lot of clutter around, they can get very thrown off by that as well, because they don't know what to make of all of the things around them. It's too much what we call stimulation. So those are some of the signs of it.
Some of the signs are a lot of confusion and disorientation.
Confusion,
more pronounced than the usual you would expect, that kind of thing.
Yes, and much more consistently showing up. So one of the things that people say all the time is, Lord, I can't even, sometimes I'm pushing up my glasses on my face and my glasses aren't even there. Or, I pick up my keys and then I forget where I put them. And these things can happen to any of us, right? They can happen to any of us, particularly if we don't get enough rest, if we're stressed out, if there are other things going on. Sometimes it could be a side effect of medication. But but then it stops. There are times where it will be, if you're more stressed out than ever, you'd be experiencing those things more. But with somebody who is having the initial phases of dementia present, that happens much more consistently. It doesn't stop. And as a matter of fact, it gets worse over time.
More pronounced.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we have a question online. It does dovetail with a question I was about to ask you. It has been shown that people under 65 have been popping up with cases of dementia. Now, as Magda Govia's question, can it affect the younger people or is it specific to older folks?
Yeah, there are cases where we have what we call early onset dementia, and that happens particularly in very rare genetic cases of dementia that is much more genetically inclined. So a particular type is what we call frontotemporal dementia, and that can manifest in somebody in their late 30s, 40s even. But those cases are much, much rarer than the other types of dementia, like Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, and dementia with Lewy bodies, which tend to happen for persons who are 60 and older.
All right, so we're here at Studio 58A discussing dementia and Alzheimer's disease with our guest. I'd like her to say her name so I don't mess it up.
Ishtar Govia.
All right, wonderful. And if there's anything you missed and you want us to go back over, please feel free to just write it in the comments. We'd love to go back over it. We have her right here. Let's take advantage of this opportunity so we can clarify anything you might.
And hopefully this is not the last time I'll be here.
Well, hey man, no problem. She just invited herself back. We don't have any problem with that.
Yes.
It says tell Rochelle A is saying tell Dr. Govia her team says hi. So your team is right behind you.
My team is amazing. Can I just big up my team too? My team is absolutely amazing. Rochelle Moore, Tiffany Palmer, Nicholas Elias, Michael Moore, Mia McMorris, Bibi Fagbola, Joette McKenzie. Oh, who am I forgetting?
Don't forget the team now.
No. It's on the spot. Orlando Johnson. Did I say Orlando already?
Maybe.
If I know that I'm forgetting
if
something.
she forgets anybody, she'll big you up. Don't hold it against her.
Don't hold it. Akil Williams,
I'm giving her permission
Richards.
to forget a name or two here. It's fine. She's nervous. She's on the spot. That works.
I'm not nervous at all.
Okay, fine, sure.
Yes,
maybe
I love talking to people.
Yeah, maybe I'm. All right. And we have a question online. Sharon Joy says she's been experiencing bad migraines and tends to be forgetful at times. I guess she's wondering if she should be concerned.
How old are you, Sharon?
Well, Sharon, you have to give us a little bit more information.
Yeah,
maybe Dr. Govia can give you help you to get closer to the answers that you're looking for.
So this, Vaughn, Sharon's question raises an important question that's linked to something that you were asking about just now, which is, what should you do if you think that you have some signs of having dementia? The first thing that you should do is you should check in with your general practitioner and before your regular doctor. And before you do that, and in preparation for doing that, and Alzheimer's Jamaica, our website actually has a form that you can download and complete. Big ups to Rochelle for putting that on our website. You should document as carefully as possible all of the things that are causing you to have concern. And then you will document as well whether you're on any medications, whether there's anything, whether there's anything else that a doctor would need to know of. Because when you go in to see a doctor, sometimes the doctor doesn't have a lot of time, and so having information in front of you in an organized way,
kind of history, so to speak.
Exactly. That allows you to have a much more focused conversation with your general practitioner. So your general practitioner, your regular doctor, is your first point of call.
All right, we have a question from Avon Peralto Nichols. If you have a family member experiencing some of these symptoms, what doctor do you go to, or what testing can they do to assess dementia?
Okay, so as I was mentioning just now, go to your general practitioner. And in terms of the testing, there are different types of tests that are done. So the first type of test that the doctor will do is a regular question answer, what we call a clinical interview.
Yeah, okay.
And the doctor will take a history. So that form that we have on our website, go to www.alzheimers, ALZHEIMERS, Jamaica.org. That form will help you have a much more informed and focused conversation with your doctor. And then, so that medical interview, that clinical interview is one of the first types of tests that the doctor can do. There are some other tests. The doctor will probably also want to do some blood tests, because what the doctor will need to do is to rule out other things as the cause of the symptoms. So maybe you have a B12 deficiency. Maybe there's something else going on with your thyroid. So the doctor will need to actually explore that. Okay. And then the third type of test, which is much more expensive, of course, are the brain scans.
Okay.
And the brain scans can actually tell us where the blood flow is reduced or where it's concentrated, and that can also give us some information about the type of dementia that the person may or may not be experiencing.
All right, so 2 questions online that kind of are preempting some of the questions I have, but it's always great for questions. Thank you, Candice Bryan. Thank you, Cadian McSmithy. I don't know how to pronounce that, but thank you for your question. It says, if diagnosed with dementia, what are the recommendations for care? How do you go about helping that relative or that person who may have contracted, dementia?
Not contracted, because it's not an infectious disease.
My apologies, not an infectious disease. Somebody who has developed Alzheimer's or dementia. So how do you, where do you begin, essentially?
An amazing question. So who gave us that question?
Caden McSmithy.
Thank you very much. The first thing is that the earlier you actually talk about these things is the better. So if you think that there is something going on with a relative, talk about it. And the first thing to do then is to actually start to think with your loved ones, because the aim is that if you are the person who's experiencing these signs or symptoms, if you are the person, you want to ensure that you can retain your independence for as long as possible. But you have to actually involve your caring network, your loved ones, so that you can retain your independence as long as possible. And, it's a very Caribbean thing, very human thing, too, people might say, to keep a lot of information close to ourselves, right? We keep our bank account login, we keep many people don't have a will because they think the moment you mention will, you're going to dead.
Exactly.
But a lot of people need to actually have wills developed. They need to have a plan of action in terms of their finances. They need to talk. People need to talk. What is it that I want? When I get to a state, because this is the progression of dementia, people get to a state where they are not able to walk. Eventually, they're not able to eat. They're not able to swallow. When I get to those types of states, what do I want in terms of my care? Do I want to be placed in a home? Do I want to be cared for at my home? So talking is the first thing. And then the other thing is to make sure that you are putting in systems in place around you. So if you know that you are forgetting things, have somebody nudge you, call you. If you know that you are not able to write checks anymore, go to the bank with somebody that you want to be on the bank accounts as well. So put things in place. I wanted to say too, one of the things that we are seeing a lot in Alzheimer's Jamaica is that this is not a topic that everybody wants to talk about. Right? So it's a nice topic to talk about. Yeah, it's a nice topic to talk about theoretically, conceptually, dementia, the thing over there, right? But when somebody in your family starts to show signs or indicate,
go a little off a little bit.
That there's something to be concerned about. That first of all, that person may not want to be talked to about it, because the vast majority of people we know are fiercely independent, and that is a very scary thought that something could be happening to them where they are just not able to manage themselves and their lives anymore.
They want to feel pitied or babied or anything like that.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, there are people in their loved ones network, in their regular relationship network, that don't want to talk about it either. So we sit down here, we have this nice conversation about dementia and advocacy and signs and symptoms, etc. But people get very, very fiercely defensive when it comes to actually this coming into their space.
Right.
They
accepting it personally and owning it.
Yeah, it's a hard thing.
Okay.
It is a very hard thing, because
owning their own vulnerability and stuff like that, knowing that they might not, be able to function normally, so to speak.
Yeah, because vulnerability is something that we tend to associate with something negative. And if there's any group in society that we think it's okay to be vulnerable, it's babies, it's children, it's the cute vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But when vulnerability means that you're older, or you're getting older, you're aging, and you're used to maintaining a certain type of independence, or you are used to interacting with somebody in a way where you think this is what a regular relationship is about. You don't want that to come into your space. So if, for example, my husband and I, right, if I am the one that regularly handles the bill payments, the finances, the cooking, etc., and I start to experience, show some signs and symptoms, that means that the onus is on him to pick up the slack, right? And sometimes there's a resistance to that picking up the slack, and there's a grieving that is starting to go on as soon as the symptoms start to show themselves about I'm losing this person that I've known.
Right.
So there's a lot of sorrow.
You're losing yourself and your partner is losing you. Right?
Exactly.
So we have a couple questions again. One is, what is the first sign of dementia? I don't know if that's an easy answer, but can you tackle that one for me?
Sure.
From Enid Williams. Appreciate that, Enid.
Thank you, Enid. If you have any concerns about any of the symptoms, the signs that we've talked about today, I would encourage you to go to your GP. So there's no one sign or symptom. And I think that's the mistake that people make. They think it's just one thing happening in isolation. And often people say it's the memory. But it's not just the memory. It's if you are, if your thinking skills are starting to be different, if you are feeling a sense of not being able to move in your space, or in space in general, as you tend to move in it before. If you are not, if your sense of how you feel certain things, even things that are concrete, like temperature. So if I am experiencing things that are cold as hot and hot as cold.
That happens too?
Yeah, body temperature changes, your sleep cycle can change, a bunch of different things can happen. If you see somebody, some of the earlier signs too in some cases is when somebody starts to hoard. So they may be gathering things to them. So and that's why it's good to keep your house as uncluttered as possible, because in one case with a client that I was working with, when I went into their space, I saw that the client had actually been keeping, because your sense of time changes, right? And if you are walking to one place and you forget what you're walking for, you might just pick up whatever is there. So in the client's bedroom space, I was seeing food products in drawers and in between clothes and stuff. So there are many signs, many symptoms, and the main thing is it's not one thing.
All right.
It's a system of things.
Enid, I hope that helps you. I hope that brought you a little bit more clarity.
And if it didn't, let us know, Enid, because then we'll talk about it some more.
So 2 questions which are linked. One from Evan Peralto Nichols, really appreciating those questions.
Yes.
Yeah, those are some good questions. And one from Vanessa Silvera. They're asking about a program of public awareness and what that would look like. How could we get the message out?
I love this question. Thank you so much.
Get the message out in a way that people can appreciate and understand it.
Perfect seg for us to say that next week, Friday, we are having the launch for STRIDE. And STRIDE is Strengthening Responses to Dementia in Developing Countries. So this is a massive project that Jamaica is one of 7 countries involved in this project. It's funded by Research Council of the United Kingdom Kingdom and managed through the London School of Economics. So the countries involved are Jamaica, India, Kenya, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, South Africa. And we are launching our start of the project in Jamaica next week, Friday, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. If you're interested, please contact us, email us, go to our website. You'll see our email there.
And that's Alzheimer's Jamaica.
Yes, right? Alzheimer's Jamaica. Yeah. You can also email us at Stride Dementia, Stride Jamaica, Stride Jamaica at gmail.com if you're interested in further information, or call us 1-876-881-6370. We're also on WhatsApp at that number. So through Stride and also through our independent efforts with Alzheimer's Jamaica, we have, particularly for World Alzheimer's Month in September, just passed, we engaged in a massive public education and awareness campaign. We spoke at the launch for the National Council for Senior Citizens Week. We had a greatly successful symposium in St. Mary in collaboration with the Women's Fellowship of a church there. And we did an information table and session at the University of the West Indies. We did other talks at different churches and places of worship. And we plan to continue doing a massive public awareness and education campaign, again, through collaborations with Stride and also here through Alzheimer's Jamaica. We have 3 major initiatives coming up in 2019. We're very excited about them.
I'm going to bring you back to talk about those because we're getting so many questions online.
Okay.
Enid said that, sorry about that, as you were responding to her question, her phone started to act up. Not to worry, Enid, you can always just go back and watch the video from the start, and we will be uploading to YouTube as well, so you'll be able to access it there. So
great.
Take no worries about that. Another good question from Evan Peralto Nichols. I guess you want to give us a plug for the where people can go, Facebook pages, other websites, things like that. People can go and get information that might help them, guide them, understand the situation.
So we want you to contact us both to get information and to give information. So we are in the process of developing a dementia directory right now. Where we want to have resources, and particularly parish-specific resources listed. So medical doctors, specialists like neurologists, people who can do assessments, psychologists, people who can do counseling, and then support related initiatives in different parishes. So we're in the process of trying to get that information collated. So if you have information about things that are going on, please contact us. Or if you want information, contact us so that we can then try to seek out information. So we have a website, as I mentioned, www.alzheimersjamaica.org. We have a Facebook page, so that would be at Alzheimer's Jamaica. We have a Twitter account and an Instagram account, and that's Alzheimer's JA. So it's at ALZHEIMERSJA, and that's our Twitter and our Instagram. And we have a telephone number where you can call us. It's a mobile number for calls, or you can WhatsApp us on that. That's 876-881-6370.
All right. Another question, a good question from Magda. She's asking, if an individual has a family history of mental illness, are they more at risk to developing dementia or Alzheimer's?
Yeah, a good question, Mags. Well, it's really about how you are taking care of it, right? So if you have a family history where there is a dementia in the family history, then the onus is on you even more to actually engage in some of these risk reduction behaviors. In terms of other types of mental illnesses, schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorders, anxiety, depression, etc., if you have a family history or if you are experiencing any of those things yourself, then again, you have to take the initiative to manage those things, because mental illnesses are like other non-communicable diseases. They are, in fact, non-communicable diseases, and what they require is management. If you are not managing them And again, just as I was saying at the comments for the press launch for National Senior Citizens Week, we have to get the conversation about mental illness out into the open. And we have to talk about dementia, bring dementia out of the shadows, bring mental illness out of the shadows, and talk about it. So you are at a higher risk if you are not managing it.
All right. Now, we've talked about most things, but where are we in terms of, where's the medical community in terms of a cure or understanding the disease or the illness better? You know, I mean, because based on what I'm seeing is it seems like the prognosis is not great. They're still finding out about it and understanding so that they can move towards developing treatments and that kind of thing. Where are we with that?
Well, we are at a very interesting point. We're at a very promising point because now there's a flood of funding starting to be funneled to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So, for example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, just particularly because Bill Gates' father was diagnosed with dementia, have just started a funding initiative for Alzheimer's and dementia. And then National Institute of Health in the United States also has a ton of grant opportunities now in terms of Alzheimer's disease, dementia. And it's only with these grants, with this funding, that we can actually move closer to thinking about cures, thinking about really understanding the underlying, what we call the underlying mechanisms that are involved in the disease progression and the disease manifestation. So there are different hypotheses about why people develop dementia. Some of it is related to what happens to the brain in terms of the plaque on the brain. Some of it is related to blood vessels, and that's especially in the brain, particularly with vascular types of dementia. And each hypothesis about what is the cause of dementia is being researched extensively now. And as I said, with more funding being put towards dementia and Alzheimer's disease, we are getting closer and closer. Remember, some decades back, we weren't even sure about how to manage HIV/AIDS.
Right, that's true.
And then because of the flood of funding,
and so on, we were able to get there. But as far as you know, there is no cure, though.
No, there's definitely no cure. So that's, again, an interesting question to talk about, because oftentimes what we get asked about when we do our public education and awareness symposium with organizations or in churches is, what about guinea hen weed tea? What about
look at the camera and talk
what about guinea hen weed tea?
Yeah.
What about not using deodorant because it has aluminum in it? What about coconut oil? And I can just drink a whole bottle of coconut oil and I'll have turmeric, and the turmeric will make me not have dementia. Or moringa, if I have moringa, then
that definitely works on the memory. And
right, and ginkgo biloba. So all of these things are interesting, but as I've said before, and as we keep seeing from the research, you can't think that this is a cure-all. None of these things are cure-alls. And if you, for example, I kind of say it, I don't mean to sound flippant, but if you're used to eating KFC and you just have your whole box of KFC and you just sprinkle your moringa and your turmeric in it, that's not going to help, right? And the truth is that over time, we have developed very unhealthy diets. We have developed very unhealthy ways of not moving. So, back in the days, people used to be walking,
Right.
from one parish to another even. And people used to be much more physically active. And now people are not. People think that, standing up and cooking means that you're physically active, or, doing your housework, sweeping the broom is being physically active. It's not. So physical activity is if you have a sustained rise in your heart level. And by sustained, we means that you have to be doing something that makes your heart level increase for at least a period of 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
So, we have to none of these are, don't think that by taking half a cup of coconut oil every day that you're reducing your risk for dementia.
All right. So, it's not, as much as we believe in natural remedies and so on, but at the same time, it has to be holistic.
It has to be holistic.
Right?
You can't be saying, I'm reducing my risk with dementia with this hand, and then behind here, you're like, give me the KFC or give me the cake or whatever it is,
Okay. Let's go back to a question that Candace Bryan, thank you Candace, she asked not so long ago. It seems, why are we seeing a rise particularly amongst our community, I suppose? Is there an increase in dementia, Alzheimer's disease diagnoses lately?
Yeah. So it's a good question, but the question about increase is a hard one to answer because we need evidence. And if we don't have data from time in the past, then it's hard to say whether or not there's an increase. We can make educated guesses about it, right? But we can say that the prevalence rate, the number of people with dementia is high. And it is going to increase. And why we will see the increase in that is, again, because our region has been experiencing and will continue to experience an increase in the age that people tend to live at or until. And then that's all. We're also a region in which we have a vast majority of the population that are not being educated, that are not in formal education system. And that is a risk for developing dementia. Not keeping your brain engaged, again, is a risk for developing dementia. We have, and we saw this with the Jamaica Health and Lifestyle Survey, which we had the public dissemination of findings, preliminary findings, about 2 months ago now. Jamaica has been experiencing an increase in non-communicable diseases. And non-communicable diseases, the sugar, the heart issues, the cancer, the breathing, the lung issues, the respiratory issues, all of those are linked to increases in the rates of dementia.
All right, so there you have it. You have to take care of your body.
It's
all about taking care of the body. And once you do that, you put yourself in the best condition to dodge maybe some of these illnesses that develop as you grow and you get old and as the body itself begins to slow down. Doc, it seems we've been talking for a pretty long time. There are still questions coming in. It does feel that way. But we've had a lot of engagement. Lots of persons are really interested in this topic. So I'm going to recommend that they follow you online. She mentioned the website is alzheimersjamaica.org. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. Are you on Instagram?
Yes, we're on Instagram
as
at Alzheimer's JE.
All right, so you can look them up and get all the information you need. I'm going to just give the last word to you. Is there anything else that we haven't, I guess, touched on that you want to just leave with the members of the public as they're watching?
Yes, there is. I would like to ask that people living with dementia and their carers really reach out to us, because we are not just wanting to do this information awareness, public education campaign, and it be some kind of academic exercise or just the experts speaking on behalf of persons living with dementia. We really want persons living with dementia to be engaged with us and to be part of the conversation as we talk about policy, as we talk about the development of programming that will affect you and will affect your carers as well. So even for our Stride launch next week, we're making a very, very special appeal that persons living with dementia contact us and be part of the program, be involved. You don't have to speak at the program, but please attend. Please attend. Let us know that you want to attend, and we will facilitate it. As same with carers. We really would love carers to be very, very involved as we do all of the work that we're doing to increase all of the initiatives that we're planning to increase moving forward.
All right, it's time. With that said, it's time for us to wrap. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our discussion, especially those of you who sent in questions and comments. We really, really do appreciate it. You are the lifeblood of our show. It's because of your questions we get to have this lively, engaging discussion with our guests, and we get to really get the information out and get more persons aware and sensitized. If you sent in a question and we didn't get to answer it, not to worry. We will be going through afterwards, and we can link you up with Doc over here, and she can give you all the relevant information. And please remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. If there's anyone in particular you'd like to have in studio with us, just send us an email, let us know, and we'll try our best to have them in studio as soon as possible so we can answer the questions that you may have. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Jamaica Information Service to see who will be in studio next. While we're at it, don't forget to follow them, Alzheimer's Jamaica, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They need all the support they can get because this is a really
even from the diaspora.
So all right, even better. I mean, Jamaicans all over the world, us as a region, because as she just mentioned, we're seeing an increase, especially as it parallels the increase in non-communicable diseases. We need to start taking better care of ourselves. As she said, 1 in every 15 or 16 persons over 65 is
over 60.
Over 60. Well, there you go. I mean, give or take 5 years, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so we do this every Thursday live on Facebook. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis, and this has been Studio 58A Live. Thank you again for joining us, and please have a wonderful day.